Hello dear friends, once again hearty welcome. Dear friends, in our today's lecture we are going to learn about the heart. Basically in this lecture we are going to learn about certain general aspects related to the heart and then external structure of heart. So let us start immediately the discussion of heart. All of you are known that heart, it is a vital organ and it is considered as a pumping organ of blood vascular system. The heart may be defined as it is hollow and highly muscular pumping organ of blood vascular system. The heart is considered as the pumping organ of our blood vascular system because the heart acts as an efficient pump. All of you might be known that the heart, it continuously receives the blood through certain blood vessels and pumps that blood again into another set of blood vessels before birth up to the death. Actually, the cessation of this pumping action of heart is nothing but the death. So I said that it is very important vital organ of the body and it is defined as it is hollow and highly muscular pumping organ of blood vascular system. First of all, let us talk about the position, location of heart. You know that the heart is located ventrally in our thoracic cavity. In 11th, you people have studied about the thoracic cavity, about the thoracic cage. You know our thoracic cage, छातीचा पिंजरा. It is made up of three components such as the thoracic vertebrae from the dorsal side, अर्थात thoracic region मध्ये असलेले पाठीचे मणके present along the dorsal side, then ribs along the anterolateral side. Ribs याचा अर्थ बरगड्या, anterior म्हणजे ventral आणि lateral side ला, and there is a sternum or breastbone present at the mid dorsal side. So these three components togetherly form the thoracic cage and the cavity enclosed by thoracic cage is known as thoracic cavity. So our heart is located in the thoracic cavity mid-ventrally, just behind the sternum, just behind the breastbone. Let me explain you properly. Consider here is supposed to be the sternum, that is breastbone. कल्पना करूया की या ठिकाणी हे breastbone आहे, ज्याला sternum असं आपण म्हणतो. And to this sternum the ribs are anchored, ribs are articulated. You might have studied in 11th that in human being there are presence of 12 pairs of ribs, but out of that 12 pairs of ribs only first 7 pairs of ribs are directly articulated to the sternum by means of their own costal cartilage. इयत्ता 11वीत तुम्ही लोक शिकलेला असाल की ह्यूमन बीइंग मध्ये रिब्स बरगड्यांच्या एकूण 12 जोड्या आहेत आणि त्यापैकी पहिल्या ज्या 7 पेअर्स आहेत रिब्सच्या त्या स्टर्नमला, ब्रेस्टबोनला, छातीच्या हाडाला त्यांच्या स्वतःच्या कोस्टल कार्टिलेजच्या मदतीने डायरेक्ट जोडलेल्या असतात. नाउ आय सेड दॅट द हार्ट इज प्रेझेंट ventrally in the thoracic cavity behind sternum, sternumच्या मागे, and in between the level of second to sixth pair of rib. In between second to sixth pair of rib. या ठिकाणी तुम्ही आकृतीमध्ये बघू शकता. This is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh pair. Of course, these are paired in nature, and I said that the heart is located ventrally in the thoracic cavity in between the level of second to sixth pair of ribs and behind the sternum. Though the heart is present ventrally and medially, but it is slightly slanting towards the left side. It means the lower narrow part of heart is slightly tilted towards the left side. ज्यावर आता मी बोलतोय. You know that the heart is slightly conical in shape. Here I am going to show. Heart is slightly conical in shape. Thus, its upper broad part is known as base and lower narrow region is known as apex. I said just now, the heart, the lower part of heart, that is apex, is slightly slanting, slightly tilted towards the left side. Now, we people have to study about other aspects related to the heart. The size of heart is near about 12 by 9 by 4 centimeter in normal adult human being. That is 12 centimeter in length, 9 centimeter in width and 4 centimeter in its thickness. On the other hand, the weight in normal adult human being is 250 grams in female individuals and 300 grams in male individuals. Of course, the heart is reddish brown in its color and the heart is mesodermal in origin. Mesodermal in origin means the heart is derived from the germ layer mesoderm. So here we have discussed about the shape, size, color, weight, position or location of heart. Now let us talk little bit more detail about the protection of heart. Protection. I told you just now that the heart is well protected within bony cage, thoracic cage, but in addition to that, the heart is well protected by a tough and double-walled membranous sac-like structure known as pericardium. आताच मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं की हार्ट आपल्या थोरॅसिक केज मध्ये छातीच्या पिंजऱ्यामध्ये वेल प्रोटेक्टेड आहे, परंतु याच्या व्यतिरिक्त हार्ट भोवती त्या ठिकाणी एक डबल वॉल्ड दुपदरी अशा प्रकारचं मेम्ब्रानस सॅक सारखं कव्हरिंग असतं, ज्याला म्हटलं जातं पेरिकार्डियम. यू नो पेरी, this word stands for surrounding, च्या भोवती, and again carda stands for the heart. Now this pericardium is double walled. It means it has two walls. The outer pericardium is known as fibrous pericardium. Fibrous pericardium. It is quite tough, protective and made up of non-elastic fibrous connective tissue. Of course, it is protective in nature. Let me show here in the diagram. या ठिकाणी मी आकृतीमध्ये दाखवतोय. कल्पना करा की या ठिकाणी अशा प्रकारे या ठिकाणी हे fibrous pericardium आहे. I said that the fibrous pericardium, it is outer, quite thick, tough and made up of non-elastic fibrous connective tissue, while the inner wall is known as serous pericardium. Serous pericardium, and it comprises again two sublayers. त्याचे पुन्हा दोन sublayers आहेत, such as the visceral pericardium and parietal pericardium. Visceral and parietal pericardium. Visceral pericardium, it is inner, thin and lie very close to the wall of heart. Let me show in the diagram. या ठिकाणी मी आकृतीमध्ये दाखवतोय. आपल्याला या ठिकाणी दिसेल हार्टचा या ठिकाणी एक रफ डायग्राम काढलेली आहे आणि हे visceral pericardium, visceral pericardial membrane इथे मी दाखवतोय. It is inner, thin and adhere to the heart wall. त्या हार्टला किंबहुना चिकटलेलं असतं, याला म्हटलं जातं visceral pericardium or visceral pericardial membrane. Visceral pericardium. And the outer one is parietal. Let me show in diagram. Here is parietal. Parietal pericardium. It forms the lining of fibrous pericardium. Lining means you know the inner layer. या ठिकाणी मी आकृतीत मुद्दाम लेबल करतोय. You can see here is the fibrous pericardium. Here parietal pericardium. You know that the parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium togetherly known as the serous pericardium. Now, in between visceral pericardium and parietal pericardium, there is a presence of little space known as pericardial space. प्रत्येक ठिकाणी आपल्याला शब्द येतोय पेरी, याचा अर्थ सराउंडिंग. Pericardial space and it is filled by means of a fluid. या पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइड मध्ये जे फ्लुइड आहे, द्रव पदार्थ भरलेला आहे, त्याला म्हटलं जातं पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइड. It is near about 50 ml in normal adult human being. सर्वसाधारणपणे हे पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइड 50 ml असतं नॉर्मल अडल्ट ह्यूमन बीइंग मध्ये. Now what is the role of this pericardium and pericardial fluid? Of course, the pericardium is protective in nature. Now here this pericardial fluid, it acts as a shock absorber. Shock absorber means it protects the heart from jerks, from mechanical shocks. अर्थात वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारचे मेकॅनिकल शॉक्स पासून हार्टचं संरक्षण करणं हे त्या पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइडचं कार्य आहे. म्हणून मी असं म्हटलं इट ऍक्ट्स ॲज द शॉक ॲब्झॉर्बर. इन ॲडिशन टू दॅट इट कीप्स द हार्ट मॉइस्ट. हार्टला मॉइस्ट ठेवण्याचं काम, त्याच्या भोवती ओलसरपणा टिकवून ठेवण्याचं कार्य पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइड करत असतं. Also, it prevents the friction of heart with surrounding tissue, surrounding organs. Because we know the heart, it acts as the pumping organ and it shows continuous rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So during its working, during its rhythmic contraction and relaxation, there should not be any friction with the surrounding organ. It is facilitated by the pericardial fluid. म्हणजेच या पेरिकार्डियल फ्लुइड मुळे हार्टच्या अवतीभोवती जे काही अवयव असतील त्यांच्याशी हार्टचं घर्षण होऊ नये आणि हार्टला कुठली इजा होऊ नये यासाठी ते कार्यरत असतं. Now let us talk little bit about the nature of heart wall itself. The wall of heart is made up of 3 layers. हृदयाची भित्तिका ही 3 थरांनी बनलेली असते. Please look at the diagram. Consider here is a small region of the heart wall. I said that the heart wall is made up of 3 layers. Its outer and thin layer is made up of flat squamous epithelial cells. The outer layer of heart wall is made up of flat squamous epithelial cells known as epicardium. Ep stands for above or outer. So this layer, it forms the outer layer of heart wall, hence known as epicardium. It may be called as the mesothelium. The middle layer is made up of thick layer of cardiac muscles. The middle layer is formed of cardiac muscles. All of you have studied in 11. And it is quite thick, well developed, known as myocardium. Myos stands for the muscles. While the inner layer is again thin and also made up of thin squamous epithelial cells known as endocardium. Endocardium. Endo stands for the inside. The epicardium and endocardium are protective in nature, while the myocardium, it facilitates the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of heart as it is formed of cardiac muscles. एपिकार्डियम आणि एंडोकार्डियम हे प्रोटेक्टिव्ह आहेत, पण मधला जो लेयर आहे मायोकार्डियम हा कार्डियक मसल्सने तयार झालेला असल्यामुळे त्या कार्डियक मसल्सच्या अंकुचन आणि प्रसरणामुळे हृदयाचं अंकुचन आणि प्रसरण, रिदमिक कॉन्ट्रॅक्शन आणि रिलॅक्सेशन हे सहजरित्या घडून येत असतं. सो हियर वी हॅव डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द हार्ट वॉल. नाउ वी हॅव टू टॉक अबाउट द एक्सटर्नल स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ हार्ट. लेट अस टॉक external structure of human heart. As all of you are known that the human heart is four chambered. That is, the human heart consists of four chambers, of which the superior or upper and smaller chambers are known as atria. Superior chambers are known as atria. Singular atrium, plural atria, or may be known as auricles. वरच्या दोन कप्प्यांना atria किंवा auricles असं म्हणतात. While the inferior, lower and large chambers are known as ventricles. Now here I am going to draw about the ventral view of heart. या ठिकाणी डायग्रामॅटिकली मी ह्यूमन हार्ट दाखवण्याचा प्रयत्न करतोय. या ठिकाणी मी व्हेंट्रल व्ह्यू दाखवतोय आणि इकडे मुद्दाम डॉर्सल किंवा पोस्टीरियर व्ह्यू पण दाखवतोय. यू नो दॅट इन व्हेंट्रल व्ह्यू द हार्ट इज सीन slanting towards the left side. So here is supposed to be the ventral or anterior aspect of human heart, anterior view of human heart, and here is dorsal or posterior view of human heart. I said just now that the human heart is four chambered with superior and smaller atria and inferior and larger ventricles. Consider in this diagram, in this ventral view, these are supposed to be the atria and here are ventricles. This is auricular part and this is ventricular part. Externally, there is a horizontal shallow groove present in between auricles or ventricles. I said that this is auricular part, this is ventricular part. Externally, the auricles or auricular part is demarcated from ventricular part by means of a shallow groove, shallow transverse groove known as coronary sulcus or atrioventricular groove. सल्कस ग्रूव याला मराठीत आपण खाच असं म्हणतो. म्हणजे या ठिकाणी व्हेंट्रल व्ह्यूने तसंच डॉर्सल व्ह्यूने आपल्याला ऑरिक्युलर पार्ट आणि व्हेंट्रिक्युलर पार्ट यांना डिमार्केट करणारी एक हॉरिझॉन्टल आडवी उथळ अशी खाच दिसते. तिला म्हटलं जातं करोनरी सल्कस किंवा ॲट्रिओव्हेंट्रिक्युलर ग्रूव. नेम itself indicates atrioventricular groove means the sulcus, the groove which demarcate auricles from ventricles. While in the lower part, inferior part, there is presence of one longitudinal but slightly oblique groove which demarcate the two ventricles. Let me show. या ठिकाणी वेंट्रिक्युलर पार्टवर, लोअर पार्टवर बोथ साइड्सने, त्याचा अर्थ अँटेरियर तसंच पोस्टेरियर साइडने एक लॉन्जिट्युडिनल पण सर्वसाधारण ऑब्लिक तिरकस अशी उथळ खाच असते. हिला म्हटलं जातं इंटरवेंट्रिक्युलर सल्कस or interventricular groove. Now, first of all, let us consider about the ventral view. I said that the human heart is four-chambered, so obviously the right side of the heart is completely separated from left side. या ठिकाणी आपल्याला कळावं म्हणून आपण काही लेबल्स देऊया. Just consider this is the left side of heart, this is right side of heart. Therefore, this chamber represents left auricle, it is right auricle, this is left ventricle, this is right ventricle. And same is true here. Let me show. Consider this is left auricle from back side, this is right auricle. Left auricle, right auricle. Left ventricle and right ventricle. Now, the two large blood vessels are seen arising from the ventricular part of heart from ventral view. Ventral view मध्ये हार्टच्या ventricles पासून दोन मोठ्या रक्तवाहिन्या उगम पावलेल्या दिसतात. Let me tell you. A large blood vessel known as pulmonary aorta. Pulmonary aorta arising from the right ventricle, and it runs upward. This large blood vessel arising from the right ventricle is known as pulmonary aorta, and this pulmonary aorta further bifurcates into two blood vessels known as pulmonary arteries. These pulmonary arteries carries deoxygenated blood, impure blood, ashuddha rakta from heart to the lungs. While another large blood vessel arising from the left ventricle, let me show, known as systemic aorta. Systemic aorta. Okay, I will label it later on. या ठिकाणी लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल पासून एक मोठी रक्तवाहिनी उगम पावते, तिला सिस्टेमिक एओर्टा किंवा फक्त एओर्टा असं म्हणतात. And this systemic aorta is divisible into three regions. या सिस्टेमिक एओर्टाचे तीन भाग पाडले जातात. Such as its initial part which runs upward is known as ascending aorta. You know ascending means upgoing. This middle region which loops back, which bends, which turns back is known as systemic arch. You know arch, याचा अर्थ curved region, वक्राकार भाग. And that's why this curved part of systemic aorta is known as systemic arch, and the downgoing region of systemic aorta is known as the descending aorta. You know descending stands for the downgoing. Of course, this descending aorta then runs along the mid-dorsal line, and then it is known as the dorsal aorta. Now, this systemic arch gives rise to three blood vessels. या systemic aorta पासून तीन प्रमुख blood vessels उगम पावतात. Let me show. Such as the innominate artery, also known as brachiocephalic artery, then left common carotid, this middle one is known as left common carotid artery, and this one is known as left subclavian artery. Left subclavian artery. It means along the anterior view we can see the two large blood vessels such as the pulmonary aorta arising from the right ventricle and systemic aorta arising from the left ventricle. While in dorsal view, in posterior view, different blood vessels are seen opening into the auricles. या ठिकाणी डॉर्सल व्ह्यू मध्ये, पोस्टेरियर व्ह्यू मध्ये आपल्याला काही ब्लड वेसल्स या ऑरिकल्स मध्ये उघडताना दिसतात. सो हियर इन डॉर्सल व्ह्यू आय एम गोइंग टू शो द टू लार्ज ब्लड वेसल्स, नेमली pre-caval and post-caval, or superior vena cava and inferior vena cava respectively, open into the right auricle. See, while two pairs of pulmonary veins open into the left auricle from dorsal side, that blood vessels bring pure blood, oxygenated blood from lungs into the left auricle. Let me show in the diagram. Consider here is one pair of right pulmonary veins and here is one pair of left pulmonary veins. Of course, these two pairs of pulmonary veins, they bring pure blood, oxygenated blood, Shuddha Rakta from lungs to the heart. So, from ventral view, we can see the two large blood vessels arising from the ventricles, namely pulmonary aorta and systemic aorta, while from the dorsal view, two large blood vessels, namely pre-caval or superior vena cava and post-caval or inferior vena cava are seen opening into the right auricle, while two pairs of pulmonary veins are seen opening into the left auricle. So this is all about the external structure of human heart. We people have to study about the internal structure, that we shall study in our next lecture. So let us stop here today. Thank you.